Liberia is a country in Africa that is recovering from 15 years of civil war. It is one of the poorest countries in the world. We went on a journey to Liberia with anticipation, fear of the unknown, but mostly full of excitement.
When we arrived at the airport, we were greeted by Major Dillon, head of customs. He escorted us right through the airport. He allowed us to skip long lines and suitcase examinations.
When we came out of the airport, this is what we saw. People standing around everywhere. But Blo J and Logan, our faithful drivers who stayed with us all week, and here they are, were there to greet us. As a matter of fact, we were very well taken care of. Donnie couldn't even walk 100 meters without security following him. At one point, he, Katie, and Wyatt decided to walk about just down the street, and suddenly security is out following him. And Blo J and Logan were in their respective cars.
This is our hotel room. We were lucky to have a safe and private beach where we stayed. Good thing we had safe and tasty food to eat.
Unfortunately, it wasn't so nice right outside the hotel for the Liberians. This is where they got their water. And across the street, my brother called this the Tim Hortons.
They have to live on less than $1 a day, not even enough for a pineapple.
Whatever happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Liberia was actually colonized by free American slaves in 1820 with the help of American Colonization Society, which was a private organization that believed ex-slaves would have greater freedom and equality in Africa. Didn't seem so.
Here we are, going into West Point. West Point is home to 75,000 people. It is one of the most dangerous slums.
Here we are just driving into West Point, and you're going to see all sorts of footage that we saw. It's quite alarming and really, really sad. These are some shots and some video footage of our travels through West Point. It was really dirty, very crowded. You'll notice that there's people everywhere. One of the things I was wondering is what happens when it rains in here? There's dirt. It would be extremely muddy. We also agreed that the Liberians are very resourceful people coming up with unique ways and ideas to sell whatever it is that they can sell to make a buck to provide for the families.
When my mom and Katie came back, I was pretty shocked to see how poor people can be. I realized that they didn't have any running water or electricity. I noticed lots of coolers outside their houses. I noticed they carried a lot of stuff on their head. It's so that they could have their hands free. And they carried their babies on their back because they don't have any strollers. Here are people waiting in line to buy items like rice. Also, you will notice lots of clothes drying on roofs. How can they stay clean? People in Canada don't know how lucky they are. We have electricity, toys, and a safe house to live in. You will notice that they have no windows or doors, and so how could they feel safe from bugs, animals, and other people?
It would be also very dark at night. Given the fact they have no electricity or lighting, it would be really hard to see. People do most of their cooking on a charcoal. In some of the footage here, you'll see that there is actually charcoal on the ground that they're trying to sell. Liberians are struggling to get back on their feet. The war ended in 2005, but apparently last year was the first year children entering kindergarten did not hear gunfire. 15 years of war left them with 15 years of catching up to do. Can you imagine that? That is entire generations of people who did not go to school. So the country has a lot of illiterate, unskilled people. This makes it very difficult to get the economy up and running again. In 2005, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected as president. This was a democratic process, one of the first times for them. And she brings lots of good things to the country. In 2006, generators powered streetlights. So can you imagine 15 years of darkness?
Can you imagine bathing your baby here?
One of the goals of the new president is to get people back in school. So it was very surprising to see the amount of children that actually had school uniforms on. Everywhere we went, we did see children wearing uniforms, different colors, and even in this very poor neighborhood, we saw children with their backpacks and things trying to get to school. We asked BlowJ, our driver, to take us to some people who made charcoal. Here we are, and we pulled off the side of the road and met these people. These people were very willing to talk to us and show us how they made it. You will notice that some of the children had no shoes on, which was very alarming because the ground was on fire in certain spots and there were sharp rocks and whatnot.
These kids were there. I noticed after seeing a lot of my mama's pictures that a lot of kids take care of other kids. Can you imagine seeing your 6-year-old taking care of your 2-year-old? This is how they told us how to make charcoal. First, they put logs in a big circle and lay them flat. Then, they put sticks into a big pile. And then, they put grass and roots and mud on top of it. And then they put dirt on top of it. And this is what it looks, and then they set it on fire, and this is what it looks like when it's on fire. And this is what charcoal looks like. They use it to cook stuff with. This is how they package it, so they could ride on their motorcycles and sell them in the village.
This is one of the favorite parts of the trip for me. We met this lady and her baby. I asked if I could take their picture, and the lady was a little shy. As you can see, she turned away. And once I took the pictures, I showed the lady what the picture looked like, and she said to me, "I have no food. I can't feed my baby." We were very excited to go to Buchanan because this is where we were going to see schools and orphanages. But the drive there was 2 hours of this. It was very bumpy. Logan was driving all over the place, swerving, and I couldn't help but feel bad for all the mud houses that we passed on the way, with people hanging up their clothes and bathing their children. We were kicking up so much dust, I couldn't even believe. The first school we went to was an elementary school. It was quite poor. Here we gave all of our supplies that we brought to Liberia to them. You'll notice there's the water pump out front, so they can have water at school. This was a grade 8 class. Half of the grade 8s were sent home that morning because they were late for school. So they actually had chalk, and this was like black paint on the wall that they were writing on. You could see that they were learning similar to what we would be learning here in Canada about verbs and whatnot. They do speak English there. However, the English is really hard to understand. I learned throughout our travels that no one could understand me, nor could I understand them.
We went to see all the grades, and this was a grade 7 class. It was very hot in there, seeing all their shirts wet. This was a music teacher. He had no instruments to use to teach the kids with. This was a grade 5 class.
The grade 5s were so cute. When we walked into the classroom, they all stood up and had this real sweet teacher greeting. It was like a little chant. Next, we went to this high school in Buchanan, which is supported by Buchanan Renewable Energies, which is the company my brother is head of. And we arrived at this high school, and we were shocked. They had set up this assembly for us, and we walked in, and we were put up on stage, and we were in there for about an hour, and was it ever hot? The school had about 500 students, and they were all in this room waiting for us, and you could tell by the shirts that they were all wet. Once we were on stage, they all started singing to us.
This is the day that the Lord has made for us.
I couldn't even imagine my high school standing up and all students singing. It was kind of like an out-of-body experience we were having. We were totally shocked that this was happening. The purpose of the assembly was really to thank Don and his company for supporting the school, and they had provided them a microphone and a generator so that they could have some electricity. And they spent a half an hour, the vice principals got on stage and were appealing for more support. It was so hot in there, they wanted air conditioning. And funny, I laughed to myself, they were also asking for computers, which is exactly our challenge at my high school right now. Next, after this song, I'm going to cut it short here a little bit. One of the students got up and she sang to the entire audience, and they responded to her, and it was quite nice. I was still kind of wondering what the heck is going on. Donnie got up to speak.
Thank you very much for welcoming us here to your school. And I heard your...
After Don got up there, I was asked as the teacher to come up on stage and talk a little bit to the assembly. I talked about what school was like in Canada. I talked about the administration being similar. They had principals and 2 VPs. I told them how many students were at my school, so on and so forth. We had a Q&A. And I realized I couldn't understand them. I had to have them translated, and apparently they didn't understand me either. But it was a great experience, all in all. I really enjoyed it.
While my mom and uncle were in the assembly, Ada, Wyatt, and I stayed outside where it was way cooler. Next, we went to the orphanage. We were greeted by the elders, and they did this welcome African tradition ceremony.
I deem it necessary to be part of this program, and I want to take this time out to welcome you traditionally to Grandmaster County.
So we got out of the car, and all these elders were waiting for us, and there was this man with the white towel over the plate, and we had no idea what was going on. So we kind of just stood there and watched and just kind of waited to see what was going to happen next. It was a bit strange, and he was talking. We can hear the children singing in the background in the orphanage. And so we just have clips here of some of the things that were happening. It actually was about 5 or 6 minutes long, but here you can see this guy, I'm not sure what he was, but he spits this nut on Benson, who was my brother's PR guy with BRE, who also was from Bassett County. But anyways, they went through this whole ceremony, and I was a little bit nervous that I was going to get nut spat on my head too. But Don then had to get the plate delivered to him, and he in fact actually had to take a bite of one of these nuts that had already been chewed by the gentleman there in the hat.
As we were approaching the orphanage, they were singing, and when we were getting closer, it got louder and louder. And we didn't know what we were walking into. We got a flower, and there were 60 kids at the orphanage.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah.
Okay, so we walked into this orphanage, had no idea what was going on, and we sit down at these beautiful couches they had laid out for us, and we see this agenda. And right away I said, oh, Katie, prepare for a long one. We were in there for an hour and a half. And if you look closely at the agenda, you can see it was in honor of Mr. Don Durand, although they spelt it wrong, president of Buchanan. And if you look at number 8, Don was actually on the agenda. So talk about surprise. They show up and they have this whole to-do, and you're actually on the agenda. Then the kids started to sing, and I just got goosebumps. So we sat and watched this, and there was a kid came up and spoke, and a whole series of different speakers, and it was really, really powerful. rice industry is one of the largest industries in Liberia, and you can see here some rubber trees, and the rubber trees produce latex. You can see it being tapped here. And what happened during the war, the Liberians slaughter tapped the trees, which in essence made the rubber trees unviable. Normally rubber trees are tapped every second day, only on one side, and every once in a while they switch to the other side, and this enables the tree to remain viable for many, many years. Slaughter tapping is when you quickly tap them on both sides to get as much latex out of the tree as possible. And the Liberians did this during the war because they needed as much money as they could, but in essence they ended up killing their entire farms.
So Buchanan chips the dead trees. And this creates biomass, as we can see here. These wood chips are used to create electricity. Here are some Buchanan workers with my uncle.
They deliver the wood chips to the port. Here's the port in Buchanan, whereby my brother's company had to clear the port of a sunken wreckage, or two actually.
They load the biomass onto ships and deliver it to Europe, where it is used to create clean electricity. Farm Builders is one of the best parts about BRE. BRE replants the rubber trees for the farmers to get them started again. Here you see clone trees. They have good genetic qualities. For example, they are resistant to pests and bad weather.
They graft part of the clone onto these seedlings, and these seedlings then grow and take on the genetic qualities of the clones. One of the neat things that Buchanan does is, because rubber trees take 7 years to grow, they put in different crops in between the rubber trees on the farmers' plantations, such as these hot chili peppers, so that farmers can get some income early on and don't have to wait 7 years. In summary, Buchanan is a really strong company for the Liberian people. One of their ultimate goals is to create a power plant in Liberia so the Liberians can have electricity too.